First sketchbook in 2 weeks. Sounds pretty impossible, right? Well, last year at the start of sixth form, I ended up doing it. So let me show you how it turned out. In September 2019, me and my classmates were set the task of filling a whole sketchbook with complete abstraction inspired by a load of drawings by Anne Christopher. And I have to say, this sounded like a tall order going into the project, but what I most enjoyed about this was seeing just how differently everyone responded to the brief. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Going into the book, I wanted to have set out some guidelines for myself to keep it all cohesive. So this is the builder's manual, if you will. Number 1, I decided to split up the composition into thirds by keeping a line of tape running through the pages at all times. And number 2, each page will include at least one circle cutout to provide a glimpse into the next page. These rules that I set out for myself were really arbitrary. So the first page here was just a test run. I was getting to grips with the materials and the stencils, so there are some very messy ovular looking circles here. I also tried to have each circle cutout be cohesive to the rest of the page, so you can see that the red wedge here matches up here and spills onto the next page. I also did that here with the N turning into an M, as well as the dotted circle turning into a cutout. But anyway, over the course of the 2 weeks, I would often go back and add more and more and more to these pages until I was eventually satisfied. And I definitely did that the most for this first page. So in this one, I feel like you can tell I knew what I was doing because the lines here are cleaner and it's less sketchy than the previous page. So I've got the thirds lines, the big wedges of tape. Also notice how this blue segment goes all the way over the page to this piece of blue in the top left over there, like a wedge of blue colored cheese invading the next page. And for this one, I wanted to experiment including more oil pastels. So you can see that I used it here with the green and the red and the yellow, but they were too textured in my opinion to work well with the palette of all of the different materials that I had accumulated. But they did add some extra depth to the pages, which I really appreciated. I also used electrical tape for some reason on this page, which is not a vibe. And then the spray paint ended up flaking off of it because it's this non-porous plasticky material, so it's not going to absorb well into the electrical tape. Okay, next page. This! So this was caused by me layering up the spray paint so much that eventually I was able to just wipe it with my hand, giving it this little wavy texture you see right here in front of you. I also realized that if I use bigger cutouts here, I could save a lot of time filling the sketchbook because there would be less area to fill. So to balance the page, the massive circle on the right, formed by the cutout, is mirrored on the left using more layers of stencils and other cutouts, and this is probably my favorite spread from the whole book. I just love the whole composition here and how the little hints of yellow all across the page tie it all together. Here again, look, the paint is flaking off the tape. Obviously, as a perfectionist, I tend to notice the flaws first. So let's look a bit more on the positive side, shall we? I tried again with the oil pastels here, this time using them to create little strobe looking rave concert light lines. Not that I've really been to a rave in the past ever, really, because coronavirus. But what I think really works here is how you have the duality of the deepest, darkest dark contrasting with the pure white of the paper. I also used a little red dot stencil and then found some similar little red stickers later, which I dotted all over the page. And I think this really proves that I have a sense of humor with my art and I don't have to take myself too seriously all the time, which is probably why I like this book so much. It has a point of view, but it's also really playful and colourful, and I'm able to talk about it without sounding too pretentious, which is something I always try to avoid. Although one could argue that sounding pretentious is just a byproduct of being knowledgeable in a specific area, but the point is I don't want to come across in like mwahaha, I know more than you kind of way, because let's be honest, a lot of the time I don't Anyway, tangent aside, for these next few pages, I was again continuing on with the themes that I had set up in the first half of the sketchbook, but I didn't want it to get too stagnant. I really wanted it to be a surprise and an explosion of color every time you flipped onto the next page. And I also got really into trying to disguise my cutouts as the paper and make my paper look like the cutouts, so it would really add to the you don't know what's coming next element. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I feel like I'm just rambling into my microphone here. But I would also probably change this gold circle if I was doing it again, as the stencil got a little bit messy, but I did love the splattering effect here, so I am fine with messy, but it's just up to a certain extent, and I crossed that threshold here. One of my friends actually called me a minimalist artist the other day, and I was like, thanks, I guess? But like, have you seen this sketchbook? I just took every possible material and chucked it onto that page. I don't think that really counts as minimalism, but go off, I guess. This is messy. I can't touch it. I need to stop being a perfectionist. What I think they meant was that I never really do anything random. I'm always very careful and considered with my marks because, you know, control freak, perfectionist things. Like, I can't just put down a piece of tape on the paper. I will always have to assess my options. Would it look better rotated a bit more? What if I use masking tape? Oh no, I preferred that one. You know, it's like a cycle of double, triple, quadruple guessing myself. Look here, you can see that I did a cutout and then I later regretted it and taped it up. So this inability to make a final decision with my art really pisses me off sometimes. I would have loved to have more time on this sketchbook, but 2 weeks was just enough time to give me some sort of limitation and stop me from obsessing too much, otherwise I wouldn't have got anything done. These last few pages are a bit more minimalist though, because I didn't have the time to go back over them. So they're a bit more 2D, though it does show some evolution and some natural progression through the book. So it's not just that one note feeling that I was talking about earlier. And then look at this cute little mini cutout here. Adorable. Bam! This is really what I wanted to end on. It's just this really powerful. Like, if you think about the sketchbook as a film, then this is the plot twist at the end. This is when the villain is revealed as that cleaner you saw for like 5 seconds in one like specific scene. You know, you've got this intense red, but then it's also soothed by this blue rectangle and the blue up here and this white stencil that I've done over the top. So it's definitely an unexpected end, but I like it a lot. And I did have a few blank pages at the end that I filled with the rest of my reference images, with the occasional little bit of spray paint over them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this sketchbook. I'm just so proud of myself for doing this all in 2 weeks. And often I just forget how cool some of the stuff that I've made is. If you guys want to one day help me make a living off of doing what I love, then please subscribe to the channel and check out my Patreon, because for the low price of £10 a month, you can get one of my prints delivered to your door. I need to pay for art school somehow, so... Anyway, I hope you guys have the best day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!